On December 13, 1973 in Pennsylvania, 17-year-old high school student Aaron Holtman ventured into a dirt tunnel in the old high school's basement when something unexplainable happened. His three best friends, Ben Holt, Paul Williams and Tom Kane, went searching for him. When they emerged 2 days later, the story they told was sickening. This was the story Ben told after they came out. I remember my mom telling me a story when I was younger about 2 of her high school classmates that went missing from school one day. They never found them or figured out what happened to them. They went to school and simply vanished. At least that's the story my mom told me. I never really believed it until now. When we pulled into school that morning, we laughed and talked about how we were going to play hooky for a few hours. After our first class, we agreed to meet by the gymnasium doors that led to the parking lot so we could easily sneak out without being seen. After our first class, we all met up by the gymnasium doors. As we were about to step outside, Tom said, "Hey, I got a joint from my older brother last night. Let's go down in the basement and smoke it before we leave." All right, sounds good to me," I said as I could see the others getting excited as well. We'd only been in the basement one other time, and that was to help our gym coach move some equipment. The door leading to the "Welcome to Dark Road Legends ... where fear takes form and shadows tell their stories. Let's begin." Basement was always unlocked for some reason, and we knew it was a secret but popular place for students to go smoke during school. When we'd smoke, though, we'd usually just hop in one of our cars and leave. For some reason, though, we thought it'd be fun to light one up down there before taking off. The last time I was in the basement, I remember thinking how creepy it was and how musty it smelled. There's one small light down there that doesn't work. Well, I didn't care though. I was excited to smoke them before we took off. It was dark as we slowly walked down the stairs, being careful not to trip. Once we reached the bottom, Paul reached up, grabbing the chain hanging from the light, turning it on. It took a minute for my eyes to adjust, but once they did, I noticed a black door behind Paul that I hadn't noticed before. For some strange reason, the door was slightly open as well. Right then, we heard what sounded like the door at the top of the stairs being locked. We turned to look as we saw someone's feet through the door's bottom gap walking away. "What the hell?" asked Aaron, not sure. "Someone obviously knows we're down here, so we're not smoking it now," replied Tom. "It sounded like someone locked the door." I said, "Yeah, I heard that also," replied Aaron. "What should we do now?" asked Tom. "Let's wait to leave until lunchtime so we blend in. I don't need the principal calling my parents," said Paul. "Yeah, me either," I replied. "Hey, I wonder where this black door leads. I don't remember it being down here last time we were down here," said Aaron. "Funny, I don't either," said Paul. "Well, let's see where it goes, man," replied Aaron. Aaron then walked over to the door and opened it. We all looked and could see it went down into darkness. That tunnel was dirt, as were the stairs that led down. My first thought was, that's weird. Why would a high school have an unfinished area like this? My father builds houses for a living and I help him on the weekends, so this was unusual to me. "Hey guys, come on, let's go down and check it out," said Aaron as he motioned us to follow him. "No, I'm good," replied Tom. "Yeah, I sure ain't going down there either," I said. Aaron then slowly started walking down the steps as we looked on. When he was halfway down before he'd entered darkness, I remember him looking back at us and grinning. He then continued going down until we lost sight of him. I remember all of us looking at each other with concerned looks when all of a sudden I felt what I thought was a presence in the room. The black door quickly slammed shut and we were thrown against the wall by something. "What the hell is going on?" What? Tom then walked over to the black door and slowly opened it. He looked back at us and said, "Come on, you chicken shits. Let's go find him." I looked over at Paul, who was visibly scared. As I started walking towards Tom, I knew Paul would follow us, and as we started descending into the tunnel, he did just that. Right before entering total darkness, we heard distant screaming followed by "help me boys, help me." We all froze in place, and the thought of turning around and running back up the stairs went through my mind. Tom, who was in the lead, took off, running through the darkness yelling, "We're coming, Aaron." I didn't hesitate and took off running through the darkness. As well as I ran, I kept my arms stretched out so my hands were touching the sides of the tunnel. I couldn't see anything, but I could hear Tom in front of me. The only thought going through my mind was, don't trip and fall. After we'd ran through the tunnel for what seemed like forever, I could faintly see a light up ahead and could see where the tunnel took a sharp turn. Tom was stopped up ahead before turning the corner and was looking back at me. I slowed down when I got to him and whispered, "What is this place? Let's wait for Paul before we see where the light is coming from," replied Tom. A few seconds later, Paul came up behind us. "What's going on, guys?" he said, as he tried catching his breath. "We have no idea. We were waiting for you before we go down," I replied. Something strange is going on. "I don't like it," said Tom. "Me either," I responded. We then turned and slowly started walking towards the light. A million things went through my mind, but nothing prepared me for what I was about to witness. As we turned the corner, I could see there were candles everywhere, and it opened up into a fairly big room. The room was full of all kinds of strange things I've never seen, and the smell was horrendous. In the middle of the room was a big wooden table. On top of the table was Aaron. He was naked and sprawled out. He'd been sliced open from his neck to his groin, along with his arms and legs. His insides were on the table next to his body. Next to Aaron stood what appeared to be a female. She was small, about 3 feet in height. She looked back at us and in a raspy voice said, "I want to feel you from the inside," as she started climbing into Aaron's body, laying down in it. Aaron shouted out, "Tom!" I just stood there as I was too horrified to do anything. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Paul, who was behind me, said nothing. As well, I'm not sure how long we stood there in shock, but I could hear weird sounds coming from the thing that crawled into Aaron's body. There was also a lot of squirming as I could see Aaron's lifeless body moving about. All of a sudden, the thing stood up and was looking at us. I glanced at Aaron's body and could see it looked all shriveled up. His skin and face looked like that of a 100-year-old man. His hair had turned grey as well, which is easy to see being Aaron's hair was jet black. The thing then jumped down off the table and started running towards us. "Man!" I shouted as I turned and started running back the way we'd come. Tom and Paul were right behind me as we struggled and fought our way through the dark tunnel, each of us trying to be in the lead. "Run faster, that thing's got to be close behind us," yelled Paul as we ran through the darkness. We ran and ran for the longest time and eventually had to stop to catch our breath. "I don't remember it being this long. I think we're lost," said Tom. "Yeah man, this is way too long. I think we took a wrong turn somewhere and didn't even know it because we can't see a thing," I replied. "We have no choice but to keep going until we get out of here," said Paul. "What the hell was that thing and what happened to Aaron?" asked Tom. "I don't know. I can't believe what we saw. It can't be real," I replied. "Let's just keep moving so we can get out of here," said Paul. We then continued moving in silence, stumbling our way through the dark. When we eventually came to a door, we could tell it was a big wooden door as we put our hands on it and fed around until we found what felt like a handle and pulled on it. As we opened the door, we could see it led to another room that was lit with several candles. We cautiously stepped inside as we didn't know what to expect or what we'd find. The room was empty except for something in the far bar corner. "What is that?" I asked. "Not sure. It looks like an old gunny sack with something in it," replied Tom. Tom started slowly walking over to it, and before bending over to see what was inside, he motioned to me and Paul to come over. I wasn't sure what to expect as I walked over, but I kept looking over my shoulder, afraid whatever killed Aaron was going to show up any second. Tom then reached down, grabbed the gunny sack and opened it. We all stepped back in shock as we could see the skeletal remains of what appeared to be Several bodies, as there were at least 3 human skulls inside, along with a pile of bones. Man, we really need to get the hell out of here now, said Paul. Agreed, let's grab the candles and leave now, I responded. Me and Paul each grabbed a candle and started heading towards the door. For some reason Tom was still standing there looking down at the gunny sack. Tom, let's go now, I whispered loudly. He looked up at me with a frightened look and said yeah, okay, I'm coming. As he slowly started walking towards us, we walked through the tunnels until the candles burned out. We got nowhere as there were a lot of turns and forks throughout the tunnels. At one point we got too exhausted, so we laid down and slept. I'm not sure how long we slept, but when we awoke we continued walking for a long time until we finally made it back to the door we originally come through. The whole time we were in the tunnels, I swear to God we'd hear scurrying sounds, along with what sounded like whimpering and crackling. When we'd stop walking, the sounds would stop, leading us to believe we were being followed the entire time. I'll never be able to get the image out of my mind. Wong sliced open and sprawled out across the table, and whatever that thing was down there that mutilated his body will forever haunt my dreams. When the 3 of them made it out of the tunnels, it was the middle of the night. The door they thought had been locked by someone was unlocked. They never found out if someone had intentionally locked then unlocked it. They went straight to the local police station and told them everything that had happened. The police searched the tunnels for several days and were never able to find Aaron or the rooms the boys had described. How the tunnels got under the school or when they were even constructed also remains a mystery. A steel door was put in place, locking and sailing off the tunnels to prevent anyone else from going down there. Tom, Paul and Ben were questioned repeatedly by the police but never changed their story. No one was ever charged with the disappearance of Aaron Holtman. His family held a memorial service a year later on the very day he went down into the tunnel. For more scary horror stories, please subscribe. Thank you for joining Dark Rot Legends. Subscribe for more tales of terror. If you dare.